this computer. Click. Okay.
Because I would love to hear you just state that last statement again so that they can, because I know they wanted to hear it.
Thank you, Amara. You're such an awesome organizer. So I'm recording so I can share this with those of us who are here and those who are not here. And to repeat, we are so honored to be going to the Big Island specifically, because not the Big Island physically is, we're talking about the root chakra of the Hawaiian Islands, and we're talking about being on the most remote island, like on the planet. It's like she's surrounded by more ocean than any other, island, body of islands. It's people think, oh, it's just, it's just off. It's like between America and Japan. It's immense amount of water, and then she's on fucking fire.
Yeah.
And so the activeness of the volcano is a portal of expression where Gaia is directly crying out, where Gaia is directly talking to the land and the people. And for us to get to go there and open a magical, extraordinary container, to open a temple, and to say, we're listening, we're communing, we're calling out, not just, not on the land level, but on the soul level, and both, because we go up and we go down. This work goes all the way up, all the way down through all of us. And to be able to really as a soul tribe, as a tribe, to be able to call forth each of our potentials, like not just the temple pillars, but everybody who's magnetized, to say, okay, where can we release the guilt, the shame, and the fear, especially around sexuality, but around all parts, so that we can be, more potent emissaries of Earth, and go back to our respective, homes, and have a greater influence on our circle of, souls, each of us being able to ripple out. But it really is an opportunity. And like Mara said, we're sold out as a collective of pretty advanced repeater students, very potent people. So it will be, this particular training, will be a very accelerated event. And it's accelerated because the land's accelerated, because the consciousness is accelerated, and so is the time, this time. And, and Ellie and Michael, there's a lot of people in this circle that are really, really connected to the environment and what's happening. So it's going to be a powerful conversation, and we get to, synergize, co-create, and new possibilities will open as a result of us coming and listening and bringing our magic.
Yeah. And let me say something else about the Big Island.
Please.
I consider the Big Island as basically a huge hunk of vibrating crystal, because the lava is crystalline in nature, and it's constantly vibrating. There's normally like 200 to 400 tiny earthquakes every day. Wow. So it's a massively amazing place to be. The eruption that's been going on for 15 years on this island has stopped. So that means that Kona has the clearest air it's had in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
There is no fog in Kona at the moment. It's gorgeous. So this is good. And we'll get to enjoy that until she decides she wants to start erupting again.
Sharon, would you like to say more about your connection to the Big Island, since you're there?
Well, it's been intense. The day I arrived to Hawaii, my mom passed away. And then we had an earthquake that was really disruptive to the place I'm living. And then the volcano. And we had a big hurricane that also was really disruptive to where I was living. And yet there's like, it's a place of so much aloha and grace, and out of it, these new beginnings. So my experience is that transformation. I mean, you don't come here if you just want a little garden tropical vacation. Come here to say, you know, bring it on. I want, you know, I'm open to the fire and the water and what's here.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience, just continually, and what's next to feel and what's next to feel. And I was supposed to be gone from the island before this training, but when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, it just called to me. And I had another commitment on the other, you know, on the Florida coast in the Caribbean. And then the homeowners had a big thing that happened here, and Kenneth and I decided to step in and stay, and that's when I contacted you. So I feel like the synergy of what's moving personally in my life and then on the planet and the participants are just so elegantly perfect for what the island's bringing.
We're so,
you know, it's the mystery of it, the mystery of how, you know, Gaia works. And yeah,
we're grateful to have you, Sharon. It's really wonderful to have a reunion with you as well. And brings up some of my history, and I just want to share for those that don't know that Hawaii is actually where I had my first sexual awakening. And it wasn't just like, oh, my kundalini's rising. It was like, you know, a full-blown awakening that actually led me into the realm of polyamory, tantra, kink, you know, and like my trans energies as well. I mean, it was full radical departure from every convention around sexuality. It wouldn't have happened if I wasn't living, you know, on lava for the 2 years that I was doing that exploration. So for me, every time I go back, it's, you know, there's a portal there for me. And it's a reminder of what I'm here on earth for. So it's very potent and very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
So just have to say, it feels really special for me to have Sharon here, because Sharon was actually Sharon and Kenneth were quite a big part at the beginning of my journey into my sexuality. And I never forget that weekend, Sharon, where we were at Bruce's Island, me, you, Kenneth and Teresa, and how much work you guys did with us and how transformational it was for me. So I feel really excited to see you again, actually. It's quite, it's like, whoa, 8 years ago or something. I haven't seen you since. Yeah, beautiful.
We have a very special team. You know, I feel there's a lot of magic in the team, and you know, I know Annika's here and listening, and you know, Michael and Annika have a very special connection too when they first met, and there's all kinds of, you know, like weaving. I'm just looking and wanted to, you know, call out to Alan and Andreas and calling in Kirsten, who's been doing a lot of work with us lately as well. And each, you know, it's like we've got a circle of witches and wizards. It feels really good. And, you know, what I'm really committed to too, because it's such a co-creation, is how can we bring out the best in each other? Like, who do we need to be to synergize and actually open new possibilities for everyone to step into more potential? And I'd like, you know, to start that inquiry and see if there's anything that, you know, and part of it's like, what do you want to bring? Because a lot of times on an assistant team, people will say, oh, I'll bring humility and I'll do what you need, or I'll help however I can be helped. And it's great to be in service. But I think what I'm asking is less level 1 and more level 3. And by that, I mean, like, we are each the container, you know, we are each, like, you know, if you're really coming from that source energy, as opposed to thinking, you know, Kamala, Devi, Ellie, and Xavier are, you know, like that it's less about the hierarchy and more about the synergy is what I'm evoking, is that everybody come in as the container, come in as source, come in, you know, in your wholeness. And I'm looking at a team that's absolutely capable of a lot of magic. So I wanted to speak into that level 3 gift that our field, you know, is, even for those of you who haven't done, because I know ISTA as a field is moving post level 3, but a lot of the assistants are on the path and haven't yet done it. It's like, here's a chance to be the container.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, and Ellie, you will have just come straight from
Vegas.
Vegas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few days on the island beforehand, about 5 or 6 days, I think. So I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do, but I really wanted to, because I'm having to leave the last evening, so I'll miss the last morning, won't I? And I really wanted to sort of land in Hawaii and be in a really good space and kind of connected to the place before we start. But also, you know, it's just such a magnificent gift to get to go to Hawaii. I've never been before, and really wanting to say hello to the place properly. Yeah,
we'll be there 2 days early, and we'll synergize, you know, as teams. We'll get to drop in and synergize, and we'll have a pre-circle with all the assistants as well. I'll talk to Mara, and Mara will set times so that everyone's really clear on when that is. And so it'll obviously be your first journey with the land energies, and I'm curious what excites you, like when you feel into this spiritual, sexual, shamanic experience, because you've been doing a lot of level 2s as well, but what is really alive and exciting for you in terms of bringing and activating?
Well, I actually feel like a virgin again. It's kind of bizarre. Like I've just started menopause this year, and it's a little bit earlier than I thought. But what's happening to my sexuality is I feel like I've become a virgin again, and actually I've been in a space of a bit of a trigger around early things that I thought I'd really processed around sexual abuse, which is a lot of what Sharon and Kenneth helped me with that weekend. So it feels like I'm doing another circle, another spiral round with my sexual journey, and almost like starting from the beginning again. But from a much more, I feel like I'm claiming back some innocence, another layer of innocence with it. So that's what I'm really excited about in terms of coming to Hawaii and really spending some time on such an alive part of the world. And I'm also sort of in this space of being very celibate as well. So, and I'd love to, you know, really drop into my body and drop into the land and kind of have a healing while I'm there, I suppose, before we start. That's what I'm excited about. That's what I'm open to. Some transformation for myself. That's what
We're coming a bit early.
Beautiful.
Mara, how about for you? What's your intention for this?
For the training? When I was at level 2, God, was it only a week ago? Had a really powerful, as I thought, a wonderful initiation that just like upped my amperage. And one of the things at level 2 is we take another name. You know, I get a spirit name, and my spirit name was Tribal Love Space Holder.
Woo!
So it's really like, I mean, I'm already doing it, but I need to do more of it. Just hold space, create spaces where the tribe can come together and love itself, love each other, and transform, create cauldrons. So that's my idea. That's my intention, is like, creating a cauldron. I'm very aware of the earth changes, having been really close to the fires and the lava this year. Our land on the other side is only about 2 miles from where it was erupting. So we got a full hit of that power. And I'm not sure how much longer humanity is going to be around on this planet. And I figure that we should just use the time we got to get as far as we can in opening our consciousness. And that's kind of my attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just go for it. See how far we can get. And these trainings are one of the best ways to go for it. So I feel very, my heart's really in this.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Michael to share his intention next, but footnote, Amara, that let's talk about land journeys, like what it would take to get the group out on the land, and we'll have a conversation after this call about that.
Yeah, we could do that. I also want to mention that this island actually is in some danger from humans, and specifically military. They're developing one of the largest military base, bigger than Oahu, up on the mountain. And, I'd like to create some protective energy for the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to voice and call in. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess that's me. I've been an environmentalist for a long time as well, and my intention for this training is actually to make myself the container, to really step into my how I interact with the field at that level 3 way. I haven't done level 3 yet. I'm doing that in New Zealand, but feeling into what that means for me, and really stepping into my leadership. My view is that the earth, on one hand, we have this huge danger of what's happening with the environment. On the other side, we're living in a time of the most peace that we've had in history, and that the earth is getting so much more peaceful. And what I want to do is really feel into that energy, that crossing that's happening right now, where it's getting less and less violent and more environmentally volatile, and what that means, really feeling into that, and then what my leadership can be, in bringing that, with ISTA. I feel like ISTA is really the answer, for a lot of what's happening on the planet. Like Amara was talking about, just go get as conscious as we can. But there's huge consciousness that's happening right now, that's big unfoldings that are happening that couldn't happen in the late 60s because there was too much violence on Earth. And now there's, we're reaching this place of peace where, all of the peace and love, that movement that we're, so in touch with, can actually, blossom and grow into something, on this planet. And so I know it's a very scary time, but it's also a super exciting time, because, that revolution and evolution is not always pretty. In fact, it's usually not pretty, but we're in it, and we're in that leadership place. And I want I want to be within that leadership, in this training and this year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Sweet. I want to share. Did we hear everyone's intention? Yes. Because
Well, I did have something else to add, because it wasn't, when I was speaking, it wasn't specifically around the attention for the training. And what's really alive for me is just the potential that we have for holding possibilities.
mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, a little bit hard to put into words, but in that field, not just possibilities for what the participants experience, but what we bring to the planet as we're talking about all the things that are happening, to be able to anchor that knowing in the love that there is this potentiality for great gifts and healing to flow. I feel like that's, what's really juicy for me as we're speaking to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can align with that. I really think there's places where all of us, even in like mastery, even in our leadership, like I still have places I'm holding the emergency brake, and I'm driving around with the emergency brake sometimes, like, what can we do to support each other to take that off and really, really shine through. Love that. Go ahead.
Oh, no,
one of the things that, is it me? I don't know, it's hard to tell, but one of the things that I experienced living, I was 33 miles from the eruption, but I could see the night sky glowing. And most of the people that were deeply affected were like secondary to me. I didn't have intimate relationships with them yet. And there was a part of me that felt frustrated that I wasn't doing more, but I was able to sit back and go, and I can hold the space that the people that are directly involved with don't even know exists right now, when they're in the depth of the fear and the loss, and to be able to hold that space of what can blossom, that something amazing can blossom from this. And so when they couldn't hold that vision, I was able to hold it. And I feel like that's part of what we're able to do in our ISTA group for what's happening on the planet.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I just want to, I talked a bit about my personal journey. I didn't really talk about the group, the intention for the group. So I'd like to share something there, if that's all right.
Great.
So yeah, when I feel about coming into the training and into the group, I feel like the piece I'm bringing in New Zealand, in Haydn, in the level 1, I felt it very strongly there too as well. And it's something around actually being able to show up in my authenticity as a human, and almost like role modeling honesty and transparency. It seems to be one of my superpowers. Even though I'm in a facilitator role, I'm able to bring that part of me through, and that inspires other people to do the same, because I see that there's so many powerful people out there sharing so many gifts, but still kind of trying to hide the parts of themselves that actually need healing and need to come out into the forefront and be loved and accepted and seen as, these messy human parts. And so I feel very strongly about inner child work, and especially around sexuality, bringing so much safety and sensitivity to these spaces, so that any trauma that's there can be released, so that we can really be in our full power and potency in the world. And I've been listening, I know I missed the call gathering, but I've been listening to this guy Buster, and I'm so fascinated with everything he brings around what happens with trauma in the body around, and especially in a group space, how we can support that to not re-traumatize people. So I'm kind of doing a lot more homework on that as well. And I know Kamala, you're there and you're bringing that piece as well, so I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah, Booster's been a lover and friend of ours for many years, so we're very in touch with those teachings, and in the short order I've seen it change actually the way that level 1s are done, so I'm happy about that.
Yay.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So we're gonna move towards closure, and I want to make sure everyone feels complete. But I do want to speak into this environmental piece because it's thematically so up for all of us. And I say all of us, I mean really collectively. There's so many perspectives, on how to see, how to interpret, how to understand, what's happening with the global crisis. And recently, we did some work with Tim Kelly. Hold on, and he has he has a process where people speak with their soul, and it helps. That's the source of information of how we can contribute to what's to what we're doing here on Earth, what our purpose is, and what we're doing with at the global crisis. And the way he looks at it is, it's not, there's work that needs to be done in economics and business and education, and you can look interdisciplinary, like we've got all these problems in the world, but the climate crisis, he doesn't consider an issue or a theme. Like, it's not just another discipline as, being an environmentalist. He actually considers it a training module for all of humanity. It's a training module, which means that if we're going to survive, as what we need is, what we need to do is graduate from a certain state of consciousness, which is very fragmented, into a collective. And so this global climate crisis cannot be solved with our current sense of being like, we're American and you're from New Zealand and you're from, like the separation that we have, where people are in their nationalistic kind of perspective. A global climate crisis must be where we're cooperating together as humanity, because it just can't be it can't be solved unless we cooperate. So it's going to take a deeper empathetic imagination where we pop into a level of being humans in humanity. We're earthlings, right? And that's just a test, because if we're going to survive all the other, and transform all the other disciplines, we have to kind of graduate that. So he's looking at this like the most exciting training module of our times, and then looks back and says, humanity has been able to change the face of the planet many times. The way things look, the paradigms, this is just the next level of our consciousness. And once we raise our consciousness to where we can actually handle the global climate, it's like, then we have the consciousness to handle all these other ways, what needs to be transformed for us to, evolve as a species. And it really touches me, because I feel it in me when I gather with friends and lovers who are vibrating at this planetary level. It's like, we know it, we feel it, we're anchoring it, and we're waking people up to it. And that's the consciousness that's needed, not just for the climate, but for all of the tests that are coming forward in the new millennium.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Thank you.
So what I want to feel in as we're getting closure is maybe a symbol that we can all hold in our inner landscapes. And I want to share with you that Ellie, Xavier, and I had a really deep heart-to-heart about, this training in Hawaii. And we kind of felt the turmoil, the transformation, the fire, the water, and we collectively came up with, we kind of like harmonized in Dreamtime to come up with this symbol. And I want to offer it to each of you to really hold, so that before, you drift off into the mystery each night, if you take a moment to feel in, that we can kind of connect through this esoteric symbol. And what we saw, do you remember, have you felt into it, Ellie? I'm checking in to see.
I don't actually remember a symbol that we talked about. I remember our conversation, but when I feel in now, I feel a rose in my heart. But what did we come up with at the time?
So we were working with the yin and the yang.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Black and white, right? Instead of like the black and white, we're like, okay, there's the fire and the water.
Right, yeah.
And so what's powerful about this, bringing the fire and the water, you know, these elements together in harmony. And I mean, my God, we could even bring in the air and the land and but bringing in an elemental yin yang as a symbol for this training. And it's just a way of a portal for each of us, or what do they call it? It's a yantra. No. Yeah. Esoteric symbol that'll help us on the dimensions.
Yeah. Actually, red and blue is another traditional way to do the yin yang.
Red and blue is?
Yeah.
I like that.
As you were saying, as soon as you said it, a rainbow, a yin yang came up for me.
Anything else you want to? Anyone else want to, as they feel into the yin yang? Any other words or symbols or messages coming through?
For me personally, it integrates with a morning Tai Chi practice that I do. And so just having you bring this symbol in just reminds me that I can dedicate my practice to this. And it feels really like a yummy way to keep cultivating the field within myself. Yeah. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So something came up for me too around privilege. And this morning when we were meditating, a thing about privilege came up. I'm, like at the pinnacle of privilege as a white man, all of this stuff. And the differences, like we have a border, 20 miles from here where there's these camps right now with people that are being held and not being able to come in, and those differences, like yin and yang, that those differences are actually the thing that makes, makes beauty and makes love. That it's the difference, not that separates us. It's the difference that brings us together. That polarity, is the beauty on this planet. Is that
the contrast is the complement. Yeah, what Michael's speaking of is the refugees in Mexico now coming up from is it
Central America, and being held at Tijuana at the border.
Yeah, it's really kind of a tragic holiday time right here, and so we're feeling into what can we do this holiday to support those who are really in terror, really leaving their country, like afraid and looking for sanctuary. So so prayers to that, and to the refugee in each of us. There's like the outer is the inner too. There's a real outcast that's looking to belong, looking for home inside each of us that we're wanting to land and to receive and to welcome. I love that about this. This work that we're doing is on the inner and the outer. Like all the work that we do personally, goes inside out to the transpersonal work. So it goes not only all the way up and all the way down, but all the way in and all the way out.
Yeah, I really found that on the last level one, everything I was processing one day inside of me was kind of like really relevant to the group as well. Like, well, there was this whole piece come up around predator, and then I really saw my own predator energy quite strongly. It was quite humbling and beautiful. and amazing to be able to just get some of the pieces like that morning and then be doing it that day, like the extra little bits that kind of felt like they wanted to be relevant in that group. And
well, thank you all for sharing yourselves so deeply, for just sharing your hearts, your time. Let's continue the connection, through the holidays. I know it's these are big and busy times, but let's really stay connected on the inner and the outer levels. So
good. Thank
Cool.
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Aloha.
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 Mm.
Yeah, lots of love to you all.
Mhm.